All Scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, that the man of God may be complete, equipped for every good work. 2 Timothy 3:16-17.
Look, if you're a busy professional, I know your time is literally your most valuable asset. You're constantly out there analyzing data, reading reports, and trying to make sense of incredibly complex systems. Well, today, we're applying that exact same efficiency to one of the most read, yet honestly most frequently misunderstood texts in human history, the Bible. Consider this your executive briefing on the foundational mechanics of biblical literature. We're going to strip away all the noise and give you the structural blueprint so you can understand how this massive collection of ancient writings actually works.
To respect your time, here is the executive summary. We'll look at the one unified story, decode biblical narrative, explore the power of poetry, outline how to read the New Testament, unlock apocalyptic literature, and finish with the concept of a lifelong meditation journey. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The One Unified Story. The Overarching Framework.
Okay, so before you analyze the specific data points of any complex document, you've got to have the bottom line up front, right? What is the actual framework holding this whole thing together? Well, the Bible isn't just some random assortment of ancient rules or, disconnected inspirational quotes. It's a highly curated collection of writings that tells one unified story. And that core narrative arc, it's all about God's plan to partner with humanity to rule a united heaven and earth. You can kind of think of this as the corporate mission statement of the text. If you just pull a verse out of the middle of the book without realizing that it's a tiny piece of the specific overarching narrative, man, you're going to lose the intended meaning entirely. Everything we're about to discuss serves this one singular massive plotline.
Section 2. Decoding Biblical Narrative. The Mechanics of the Text.
So now that we've got the macro level mission down, we need to look at the tactical level. To read this text efficiently, you've got to recognize its literary toolkit. First up, we've got plot. Biblical stories are very intentionally arranged into patterns of conflict and resolution. Read a verse totally apart from its plot context, and honestly, you miss the point entirely. Next is setting. Locations aren't just background scenery here, they are loaded, and I mean loaded, with special meaning from past events. The authors use these settings to meet and sometimes brilliantly mess with your expectations. And finally, design patterns. The authors unify this massive storyline across the Old and New Testaments using repeated words and parallel themes. It's this intricate design meant to highlight core concepts and ultimately show how the whole shebang leads to Jesus.
Now, what's really interesting here is that grasping this requires a major paradigm shift. A lot of us grew up with this Sunday school expectation of biblical characters, right? Imagining them as just simply good or bad, clear-cut sinners or spotless saints, flannel graph heroes, basically. But the biblical reality, it's entirely different. Actually, scratch that, it's pretty much the opposite. The authors present these characters as deeply complex and highly morally compromised. We're talking about flawed humans making terrible decisions just as often as they make good ones. Understanding this is absolutely crucial. It prevents you from trying to copy the behavior of characters who were literally put there as cautionary tales.
Moving right along, Section 3, the power of poetry, art and metaphor. Think about it like this. You wouldn't read a financial spreadsheet the exact same way you'd read a visionary marketing pitch, right? Different genres require totally different analytical tools. And yes, you are reading that number correctly. A full 1/3 of the Bible is actually ancient Israelite poetry. I know, no way, right? That is a super surprising data point for a lot of people. It's this incredibly rich, artistic form of communication, but it can also be really tough to process if you're going into it looking for rigid, literal data. Poetry demands a complete shift in your reading strategy. To unlock this massive chunk of the text, you absolutely must understand metaphorical thinking, which is really just describing one thing to give meaning to something else. Books like the Psalms, which, by the way, were designed to be read as this virtual literary temple, and the dense, wildly imaginative books of the prophets rely heavily on this. If you try to read the prophets literally, well, you're going to be deeply confused. But if you read them attentively, recognizing the metaphors and that intense imagery, you unlock the profound beauty and power of the biblical storyline, just retold in poetic form.
Okay, Section 4, reading the New Testament, biographies, stories, and letters.
Transitioning into the second half of the text, the New Testament, we can basically categorize the documents into 3 primary types. First up, the Gospel. Now, these are 4 ancient biographies, but they aren't just reciting dry facts. They are expertly crafted to announce the good news that the crucified and risen Jesus is the true ruler of the nations. Second, we have parables. Jesus was a master communicator, and he often used parables, which is essentially coded storytelling rather than plain language to deliver his message. And finally, the epistles. These are 21 historical letters written by early Christian leaders to communities in the ancient Roman world. And let me tell you, they are just packed with practical theology and guidance.
And this brilliantly illustrates why we need a standard operating procedure for reading them, because those 21 epistles make up such a massive portion of the New Testament. Step 1. Understand the historical context. Remember, these were written to first-century communities, dealing with very specific real-time cultural crises. Step 2. Understand the literary context. How exactly does this letter fit into the broader narrative? It's only by doing steps 1 and 2 that you can actually reach step 3, grasping the intended meaning for us today. If you skip straight to applying a verse to your modern life without taking a second to understand what it meant to an ancient Roman, yeah, you're gonna misfire on your interpretation for sure.
All right, Section 5, Unlocking Apocalyptic Literature, Visions and Symbols.
And this brings us to arguably the most highly debated and honestly misunderstood genre in the entire library. So what exactly is an apocalypse in the Bible? Let me clear this up. It's not just some Hollywood end-of-the-world disaster movie. Apocalyptic literature is defined by very specific features. You're going to encounter dreams and visions. You're going to see depictions of human history coming to a decisive climax. And it is going to be absolutely packed with intense imagery and some really strange symbols. The absolutely crucial takeaway here for the focused learner is this: those strange symbols are deliberate. They are a feature, not a bug. When you recognize that this intense imagery is a well-established literary style used to convey huge cosmic truths, you can actually begin reading this literature with deep wisdom rather than just scratching your head in total confusion.
And finally, Section 6, A Lifelong Meditation Journey, the Strategic Approach.
So we've covered the macro story, the mechanics, the poetry, the letters, and those wild apocalyptic visions. To bring this explainer to its strategic conclusion, I really want you to focus on this quote. The Bible is a multi-layered work, offering levels of insight as you reread and meditate on the Bible. As a busy professional, look, I know you might be tempted to just skim this text, extract the main data points, and move on to your next task. But you have to remember, this is ancient Jewish meditation literature. It is brilliantly designed to be multi-layered. It is literally not meant for a quick read. It's an invitation into a lifelong journey of reading, rereading, and meditating. New levels of insight are unlocked the deeper you go and the more attention you pay to its incredible literary design.
So there you have it. You now possess the executive summary of biblical literary context. You know it's one unified story leading to Jesus. You know how the plot, the setting, and the poetry actually work. You know the historical weight of the epistles and the symbolic nature of those apocalyptic texts. Consider this your new operating system. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Now that you actually have the framework, how are you going to read it differently? Step away from that textbook approach. Engage with the brilliant design of the text and let the journey begin.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.